Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're unlocking the absolute magic wand of web development, CSS. If you've ever wondered how websites go from, a clunky, boring wall of text into a stunning, interactive experience, well, this is it. CSS is the tool that adds the style, the beauty, and honestly, the makeup to our web pages.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with an introduction to CSS, move into the psychology of styling, connect HTML and CSS, break down the syntax, decode color systems, and finally, master selectors and alignment.
Section 1. Introduction to CSS, the blueprint to masterpiece. To really wrap our heads around how web development works at a fundamental level, imagine you're building a brand new house. HTML is basically your structural blueprint. It's the bricks, the cements, the roof. But let's be real, nobody wants to live in a bare brick house. And that's exactly where CSS comes in. CSS is your interior designer. It paints the walls, it matches the sofa to the rug, and it sets that beautiful lighting. It literally transforms a basic layout into an inviting home. So CSS actually stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's exactly that, a styling language used to describe the presentation and design of an HTML document. Notice that key distinction there. It's a styling language, not a programming language. Unlike something like Python or C++, where you're writing complex logic and loops, CSS is purely aesthetic. Its one and only job is to make your structure look fantastic.
Section 2. The psychology of styling. Why design matters.
Before we type a single line of code, we really need to understand the why behind the how. CSS isn't just about making things look pretty. It's actually a massive tool for consumer psychology. Massive brands manipulate human behavior every single day using CSS color palettes. Think about it. Food brands heavily use red and yellow because red physically stimulates hunger. On the flip side, major banking apps almost entirely rely on blue. Why? Because blue creates a subconscious feeling of trust and security, which is exactly what you want when you're handling someone's hard-earned money.
And this leads us to a really fascinating truth about web development. Quote, when a website has a premium design, modern fonts, and beautiful colors, we as consumers are willing to pay more for the product. It's wild, right? A well-designed page literally increases perceived value. And CSS is the exact tool that creates that premium, lucrative feel.
Section 3. Connecting HTML and CSS, bringing the style to the structure. Now, you could write the most beautiful CSS in the entire world, but it's completely useless unless it's properly linked to your HTML foundation. There are 3 main ways to do this. You've got inline styling, which goes directly inside a specific tag. Then there's the style tag, which sits inside the HTML head. Or you can use an external style sheet, a completely separate .css file. Now, that third step, that is the absolute professional standard. It's exactly how top tech companies keep their structure in one file and their style cleanly separated in another.
So the crucial point is, if we're using a separate external file, how do we get them to actually talk to each other? Well, you need a specific link tag placed right in your HTML head section. This single line of code acts like a bridge. It basically tells the HTML document, hey, go look at this external CSS file to figure out how you should display yourself today.
Section 4. The rules of syntax, writing your first code. If you've never coded before, hey, take a deep breath. The syntax of CSS is elegantly simple. First, we just select the element we want to change. In this case, our main heading, the H1. Then we open up a pair of curly braces, and inside we give it a clear instruction. We just type color, a colon, and then red. That's it. You've successfully selected an element and changed its text color.
But a totally normal question pops up right about now. Do we really need to memorize all these CSS properties? Because there are literally hundreds of them. Let me reassure you right now, absolutely not. Professional developers rely heavily on Google, documentation, and just pure practice. While you definitely don't need to memorize every single property name, understanding the basic structure is absolutely mandatory.
So let's quickly walk through the exact anatomy of a CSS rule so you have it down completely perfectly. First up, the selector. This chooses the HTML element, like our H1. Inside the braces is the property, the specific thing we want to change, like the color. Then comes the value, the new setting, like red. And finally, the semicolon. The semicolon is your statement terminator. Always, always remember your semicolons. It's honestly the fastest way to spot a professional over an amateur. Section 5, Understanding Color Systems, the math behind the magic. To really grasp how CSS handles color, I want you to think back to elementary school art class, where we learned all about mixing primary colors. CSS does the exact same thing. It just uses numerical values in the RGB system, red, green, and blue. Think of these colors almost like a school test score, where the absolute maximum possible grade is 255. A 0 means that primary color didn't show up to the test at all. A 255 means you're using the absolute brightest, highest intensity of that color. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we mix those scores. For pure red, we max out the red score at 255 and give a total 0 to green and blue. But remember in our class, red and green mix to make yellow? Well, in our RGB setup, maximum red combined with maximum green gives us yellow. This also perfectly translates to the hexadecimal code, which is just the industry shorthand for RGB. In hex, a 0 is literally just written as 00, and a max score of 255 is written as FF. So red and green maxed out at FF mathematically creates that exact same bright yellow. Section 6, Selectors and Alignment, Precision Control.
Okay, so now that we have our custom colors mixed, how do we surgically apply them exactly where we want them? Well, CSS gives us a clear hierarchy of selectors. The universal selector, which is an asterisk, acts as a giant blanket rule for the whole document. Element selectors, like H1 or P, select all tags of that type. But for real, pinpoint precision, we use the ID selector, a hashtag, to single out one completely unique element, or the class selector, a period, to select a specific group.
Let's compare those last two for a second, because this is where beginners almost always trip up. An ID selector is a lot like a student's unique roll number. It should really only ever be used for one specific, highly unique element on your entire page. A class selector, on the other hand, is more like a classroom section, say class 12B. It's specifically meant to group multiple elements together so they share the exact same styling. The golden rule here? Never use the same ID for multiple elements. If you want to style a group identically, always use a class.
Finally, let's talk about how to align and decorate the text inside those elements. With the text align property, you push text left, right, or center just like you would in Microsoft Word. And text decoration adds things like underlines or strike-throughs. But here is an absolute pro trick for you. By default, web browsers put these really ugly underlines on all your clickable links. By selecting your link tags and setting text decoration to none, you instantly remove that line, which gives your site a much cleaner, much more modern look.
Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today, from the basic HTML structure, right through the psychology of colors, all the way to precision targeting with CSS classes. So, now that you have the foundational tools to literally paint the web, what masterpiece will you build first? Remember, every single multi-million-dollar website out there started with these exact, basic CSS building blocks. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.